Hi everyone, I'm Aakanksha Naval-Shetye, and with us on Filmfare Middle East is Amit Tandon, who obviously needs no introduction. Hello Amit.
Hi, Aakanksha. How are you?
Good, good, good. Such a pleasure to have one of India's topmost comedians on Filmfare Middle East. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
How
Very.
excited are you to be with us on Filmfare Middle East?
Middle East always has been interesting to me. Always looking forward to these conversations because I get a lot of love from Middle East whenever I perform. So always fun. I think the only show that I've done in Corona live show was in Dubai. So December. That was after March. That was my first show. So you can see, and I'm still not doing any shows there.
Lovely. But tell me, so how was the feedback? How was the crowd? How's the vibe of Dubai?
It was interesting. Again, the show was, we did two shows and they were sold out like 5 or 6 days before we performed. So definitely the response was amazing. And there's certain warmth that you get whenever you perform in Dubai. So it was good to see that, again. And it was good to be in a city where, the restaurants were open. You could go to a shopping mall, buy something, so that
Right.
way again very different from what we've been
Around,
facing here.
yes. True, true, true. But your videos have more than 100 million views plus you've performed in so many countries. Almost how many countries? That's a huge count
28,
again.
28 countries.
Yes. So where have you found, like, do you find us, obviously the audience is very different from, because coming from different cultures. So what has been your most interesting or, something that has stood out, your experience with a live audience?
So internationally, I think if there's a show that I would say was the most memorable one was in Canada in Toronto. Our show was on the same day as Holi. So there were apparently big functions happening. So we were not sure how we would sell, but we sold like, we had booked a 1600 or an 1800 seater and we sold 1400 tickets still. So we were very happy we sold those kind of tickets.
Wow.
And then the other problem was that the venue managers were a bit racist. Okay, so they
Okay.
didn't allow people inside. There's some major issue, I can't get into detail, but they didn't allow people inside the venue like till half an hour before the event started, which
Okay.
meant people were standing outside in -7, -8 degree temperature for an hour, queuing up outside the venue. So I was very scared, when I was going to
How the
start the show,
reaction would be.
really pissed off. But it was one of the best shows that I ever had. People were so warm, they were so giving, and that's when you feel very blessed that people would brave that kind of weather, stand there for an hour, hour and a half to spend like an hour, hour and a half of time with you. So one of the most memorable shows I had.
Right. So, Amit, tell me, what is the first reaction people that you get as a comedian? Because, is it something like, people expect you to be funny all the time? Ki, Amit dig gaya to ek joke, something funny is going to come up. Or how is it around you all the time?
हाँ, वो थोड़ा प्रेशर होता है. समटाइम्स पीपल आर लाइक कि अरे एक तो सुना दो, which I try to run away from. So I try to set the expectations right in the beginning itself. So if somebody, if I'm at a party and somebody says अरे 5 मिनट हो जाए, so I tell them that पहले ऐसा है, सबसे हजार रुपए इकट्ठे करो और 500 500 रुपए लो, because मेरे मुंह से उसके बगैर जोक निकलता नहीं है जब तक लोग टिकट नहीं ले. So you have to find ways of staying away from that. But yes, it happens all the time.
Yeah, it's something like, if you have a doctor in the family, everyone has an ailment ready.
या वो एक डॉक्टर के 5 गुना ज्यादा रिश्तेदार होते हैं नॉर्मल इंसान से. So, same.
So are you always usually funny in real life too? Like this one you just cracked right now. So are you usually does it come very easy, or do you have to like sit and create that kind of a hilarious content or humorous content?
So yes, I am a little funny in my daily life, but when you have to write stand up, for stand up, you have to actually, spend time in structuring a thought, because it's not just one joke that we are trying to tell. We are trying to, take you through a journey of, a particular experience or a particular story. So that takes a lot of effort, where you would write your first thoughts, then you would do it on stage, test it, tighten the material, drop a few jokes, add new ones. So then it takes, like,
Right.
a set would take 4 or 5 months before it really becomes a good tight 10-minute set. So that
Wow,
happens.
a longer process. So what do you watch, Amit, when you want to de-stress? Do you watch your own shows?
I watch a lot of other stand-up comedians. I love watching stand-up, so I'm a big fan also. So, globally there are comedians like Bill Burr is there, George Carlin is there. These are the people I love watching. Within
Okay.
India, there are a lot of very interesting comics. You have a Gaurav Gupta, Gaurav Kapoor,
Mm-hmm.
Anirban Das Gupta. Obviously there is a Zakir, and Bassi is there. Bassi is fantastic again. So
Mm-hmm.
so there's a huge pool of Indian comedians also that I love to watch. Just sit back and watch and laugh. I like doing that.
Lovely. And what is your take on the, like you mentioned, all these comedians are there on the Indian scene, but do you think that they have it better now with OTT coming up? And, do you think there are more platforms also today as compared to a couple of years ago?
Absolutely, there's a big difference. Even most of the comedians who started with me, like we started in 2010, 2009, 2010, 2011. Most of us owe our careers to YouTube and Facebook, a lot of social media, because that's where our videos went viral and people came to know. We were not there in movies or television. Okay. Now with OTT platforms, that reach has further multiplied, because
Right.
earlier I had to, like, for example, when I'm on YouTube, I have like 500,000 subscribers there. So whenever I put out a video, those are the people who get an alert. So, and those are the people that I have earned over a period of time,
Yes.
right? Those
Huge
are my
fan.
subscribers. Yeah. But when I, released my special on Netflix, uh, Netflix brought an entirely new set of audience to my jokes or to my shows, because then I was not just using my subscribers.
Ji.
I was
Right.
using everybody who was a subscriber of Netflix, and they gave me a chance to, okay, this guy looks interesting, let's watch him. So that's a big advantage that OTT platforms have brought in. And of course, the money part, so that's another advantage that you get with them.
Right, right. I've noticed one thing, like a lot of comedians or stand-up, a lot of you seem to have a background of engineering. Is it a coincidence?
It's just that I think a lot of people in India ensure that their kids do engineering, and engineering is like a basic qualification right now in India. कि पहले engineering कर ले फिर सोचना कि क्या करना है. So that's why probably lots of engineers है.
Yeah, yeah, but it is a fact, nahi? I mean, you have come across a lot of. I thought कि
Yeah.
engineering में कुछ अलग से कुछ होता होगा that कि like अंदर से एकदम
इंजीनियरिंग में
funny वाला
अलग से
side
यही
निकल
होता है
के
कि
आता
इंजीनियरिंग में
है.
टाइम बहुत होता है. इंजीनियरिंग में हमारे पास टाइम बहुत होता है, तो इसलिए हम ये सब कर लेते हैं. डॉक्टर को काम करना पड़ता है, डॉक्टर को पढ़ाई करनी पड़ती है, तभी वो डॉक्टर बनता है. सीए को बहुत पढ़ना पड़ता है, तब वो सीए बनता है. सो फॉर देम टू परस्यू कॉमेडी इज मच टफर एज कम्पेयर टू अस. लाइक वी हैव नॉट इन्वेस्टेड टू मच इन दोस 4 years. हमने बहुत ज्यादा पढ़ाई करी नहीं है, तो उसको छोड़ने का कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती. बट फॉर अ डॉक्टर हु स्पेंट लाइक 7 years of his life to drop, his education and get into comedy is too big a challenge. Like इतने साल खराब करे. For us, he is like, नहीं कुछ खास किया भी नहीं था उन 4 सालों में. So okay.
I hope all parents are taking cognizance of, taking notes of these things and not going to push their kids into doing engineering. Okay, but what tips would you have for people who are aspiring to be getting into stand-up comedy? What are the tips that you'd like to share?
So for people who are getting into comedy, I normally tell them that, don't try to do what is going on in the market. Try to do what is going on in your mind. Okay, be very
Okay.
honest to your material. Bring your own stories out. Bring your own observations. Bring your own jokes. Because when you think कि मैं वो करूंगा जो मार्केट में चल रहा है, तो जाकिर टाइप के जोक्स चल रहे हैं तो मैं जाकिर टाइप के जोक्स, यू
Huh.
विल नेवर बिकम अनदर जाकिर. Okay.
Right.
So the bigger example is if you look at like 7, 8, 10 names that pop up in your mind when you think about Indian stand-up. Okay, I'm
Hmm.
sure you've seen a lot of stand-up, Akanksha. I
Yes.
hope you've seen other
I have.
comedians. So if you look at all the names that pop up in your mind when you think about stand-up, no two comedians are similar.
True.
No two
The
comedians are
brands are
similar.
very different, yes, and they
Yeah.
are known
So
for the very unique. Most of them are very unique.
everybody has different stories. Everybody has different backgrounds. So bring your own story and people will connect with it. Don't try to like become someone else to tell your story. So that's what I would tell you.
That's nice. That's nice. Also, what about the entire, when you are going up for your brand of stand-up comedy, you do a lot of, your jokes revolve a lot around Indian couples. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it.
So has there ever, yes. So have you been approached by any couple or husband wife ki yaar ye kya bol diya type?
So a lot of times people will say, "Why do you reveal our secrets?" So guys will say, "Why do you reveal our secrets?"
Okay.
Ladies will say कि आप सिर्फ ladies पे jokes करते हो. I'm like, see, I am a guy, so I'm telling my side of the
Your
story.
perspective.
हाँ, so I'm telling you my side of the story, and tell me if it is false. Like they're like, नहीं, आप बोल तो रहे हो जो वो सच है, but ये सब कुछ बोलना जरूरी नहीं. That happens once in a while.
So how
So,
who do you look up to for inspiration when you are making these jokes? And do the people, and most importantly, what do they have to say जिनके बारे में jokes बन रहे हैं?
so I look up to my family because most of my jokes are about my kids, my wife, my parents. So it's like marriage itself. I think is a gift that keeps on giving. Because the relationship evolves over a period of time. So when you're newly married, the relationship is very different. 2 years into marriage, it's different. Once kids come into picture, it gets a little different. 15 years of marriage, there are further changes. So it keeps on moving. So there's
Evolving.
always something new to say about where the relationship lies. And my wife is kind of cool with it, because she knows कि घर इसी से चल रहा है. And same for the kids because they know whatever we can afford today is because of the jokes that I'm doing. So
Lovely, lovely. But has there ever been a joke that you had to kind of pull back because the wife didn't like it, or you got reprimanded for it, like ये कुछ ज्यादा ही हो गया?
हाँ नहीं मैं अभी तक ऐसा हुआ नहीं है because sometimes I also know my limits कि
अच्छा.
what would piss her off. So I just stay away from that.
Lovely. So you tell me, like, do you feel that kind of a pressure every time because you are raising the bar every time you go on stage and perform, and every time there's a new act that you put up, you're raising the bar with it. So do you kind of feel the pressure that the next act has to be better than the previous one?
Yeah. So how I look at, I've been doing comedy for around 11 years now.
11 years,
So
yes.
my parameter normally is that at the end of every year, if I look back at my journey, I should be able to say that yes, there is something new that I've tried on stage. There's something new that I've done. There has to be some growth that's happening. So fortunately, it's been happening so far. I try to challenge myself every year. कि ये तो तेरा comfort zone है, इसमें तो तूने खेल लिया. Try doing
Right.
something else. So every time I would be like, okay, now I've done observation jokes. Let me try something which is more personal. Let me now try to bring a story which is very close to my heart on stage. So those are the things that I try to do. So in the new show that I just did in Dubai,
Yes.
uh, it's it's a story which is out of my comfort zone normally. Okay, so it
Okay.
takes you more effort to get the audience on your side. Okay, so that's something that I try to do everywhere. That end of the day, if you've not grown as an artist, I think somewhere uh, you
Stagnate
know
or
you've lost it somewhere if you've not done something new.
so which of your acts are your favorite? Like, what genre, what theme would you say is your favorite? Joking about
So
whom?
what I try to do is, so one of my favorite acts so far, I think, is the one where I talk about Facebook and Twitter. I released it, I think 3 4 years back. I'm not sure if you've seen that piece. Basically talks about कि जब से Facebook आया है, life enjoy करने का pressure बढ़ गया है. So that's the
Yes.
theme of that particular piece. Why I like it more is because it's not just jokes, but it's a lot of social commentary also.
Yes.
About the peer pressure, how we try to look happy even when we are not happy, how we have to announce our love to the rest of the world. So it's still one of my favorite bits because the way I've talked about I've tried to make a point about how the social situation is, and how it has impacted our thought process. So it's one of my favorite bits.
Lovely. What about the audience? Do you think the audience has also evolved over time? Are they more open now than they were back then when you started, like 2010?
I think they are. I think they are. So there is two kinds of audience. One is the general comedy audience, and the other is my audience. People
Who follow
who've
you?
been
Yeah,
following me for the last four five
throughout.
years. They've
Correct.
seen everything. So with them, you know, uh, if they've seen every act, then they've anyway evolved because they've seen me change the way I have been performing.
Right.
So they are more open to, okay, let's sit down and listen to him for for a minute and a half. There might not be any punch, but there's a point that he's trying to make. So
Okay.
that's something
So
that's
they
happening.
follow you, right?
Yeah, and plus I think the overall exposure has increased so much that the audience has evolved, which means it's not just that they get every joke, but also their expectation from an artist are different. It's not just कि एक घंटा हंसे और बस हो गया. They want to know more from you. They want more from you.
Right, right, right. What about the competition? Because today, because like again,
Mhm.
uh, they have an access to Netflix, so they don't really have, or like you said, all these OTT
Yeah.
platforms, so they don't really have to buy a ticket to see you live. So does it kind of take away from a live performance, or also
No,
the
not
fact,
really.
yeah,
Live experience is always, it's a different experience altogether. When you go, live experience is about sitting with 1,000 people and laughing on the same jokes. You will never get that,
that same
on a
feeling
YouTube or
on
a
a
Netflix.
right.
And when we do our live shows, for us, it's very clear that when we do our live shows, we do jokes that we've not released so far. So when you come for a live show, that there's a promise that this joke
It's
you've
not,
never
you've
heard.
not heard it. Okay,
You've not heard that joke ever before this. So that's something that is the difference. It's the difference between a court marriage and marriage where you call everybody haldi hai wo hai. सब देखने जाते हो ना तो
Only you could have come up with this example. Guys, yes, that is Amit Tandon for you. Bring in, he'll find humor in almost everything, the most serious of things also. But
right.
what about, what about competition from international acts in terms of, like, Kevin Hart, or, so many other guys, even on the
I
same
think
platform sometimes.
I think somewhere here we need to also credit our whether it's our politicians or overall the situation in the world. So there is so much tension now in the world that the demand for comedy is also increasing. तो
Correct.
हमें उतना competition का problem नहीं है because now people want more and more time away from
Acha.
everything and they want to laugh more.
I
So
thought you were talking about politicians as an example for more comedy.
हाँ, तो सब जगह, हाँ, पॉलिटिशियंस के कारण इतना हेट्रेड हो रहा है, इतना टेंशन है लोगों को, 50,000 चीजें हो रही है ओवरऑल एनवायरनमेंट में। लाइक जब से कोरोना शुरू हुआ है, द नंबर ऑफ व्यूज दैट वी आर गेटिंग ऑन आवर यूट्यूब चैनल्स हैज शॉट थ्रू द रूफ।
Yeah,
सो
yeah.
जितना दुनिया में वो सब हो रहा है, तो हमारा तो डिमांड बढ़ ही रहा है। सो कंपटीशन इज नेवर इनफ, लाइक इन दिस एरिया आई थिंक देयर इज इनफ स्पेस फॉर एवरीबody, because there's more and more demand for, you know for
Okay.
taking your time off all the tension that you feel.
De-stressing completely. Absolutely. And no better thing than laughter, and you do a fab job.
Right.
What about Bollywood? Have you ever aspired to, uh, you know, get into Bollywood? Because that is usually a stepping stone for a lot of artists. Has that ever been a thought for you?
So I'm largely a writer. So there's a lot of work that I'm doing in that space in writing. There are quite a few, projects that I'm working on, which should come out in the next year and a half.
Okay.
Uh, as a performer, I have not looked at it. There's something else that I'm doing in comedy as a performer outside of stand-up, but I've not thought about it. But if something comes, then it's good. Otherwise, comedy is more than enough right now.
Okay. You tell us a little bit more about this other thing that you were telling us. Like, what is it about? Some new
So
project?
I'm working on 3, 4 different series in the comedy arena. I can't talk about it much right now because we have our confidentiality contracts,
Okay. Yes,
signed up. So
of
I
course.
can't talk about what exactly is happening, but there's enough that's coming out on OTT platforms in the next year and a half.
Great. Thank you so much, Amit, and wish you all the very best for your upcoming shows, and as well as, you're doing a fab job of keeping us entertained through our lockdown. So I want to thank you for that and wish you all the very best. Have a great year ahead. And
Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you for talking to us on Film Fare Middle East. Nice talking to you, Amit.